Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala.
And I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. We begin this hour with really breaking news, the sentencing of rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs. We now know the judge has just sentenced him to over 4 years, or just over 4 years, for his conviction on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution.
The prosecution was pushing for 11 years and 3 months in prison. Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Krapf was inside that courtroom for the sentencing hearing, and she joins us now. Kelly, great to see you. Take us back to that point when the judge was delivering his sentence. How did it go?
Well, hi there, Michael and Judge Ashley. The day has been emotional and intense as we awaited to hear the punishment for Sean Diddy Combs. Just moments ago, the judge handed down that punishment, saying that Sean Diddy Combs should serve 4 years and 2 months behind bars for the convictions of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, prior to the judge handing down that sentence, Sean Combs addressed Your Honor. He spoke to him directly, saying, no matter what anyone says, Your Honor, I am sorry for what I did. He also apologized to Cassie Ventura as well as Jane, saying that he is sorry for everything that he did to them, saying that he is sorry for getting them involved in his mess. But emotional and intense as his children also spoke, Judge Ashley and Michael. They addressed the court on Sean Diddy Combs' behalf, having a very hard time with their remarks, breaking down at times. As they spoke, Sean Combs put his head into his hands, then placed his head down on his knees because he was having a hard time composing himself as his one daughter in particular spoke. So that was quite emotional during the court proceedings today. This hearing lasted an entire day, with us hearing from several of Sean Diddy Combs' attorneys. We put up now some of the information that Sean Combs shared with the judge. This was prior to him actually giving his statement in allocution. He put forth a memo in which he talked about what he was going to say today. He expounded on that quite a bit and was quite emotional as he delivered his remarks to the jury. At one point, he turned around, spoke directly to his children, telling them that I failed you. He was very emotional when he said that to them, then also addressed his mother. At this point, there was really not a dry eye, at least from many of the supporters and family members of Sean Diddy Combs, because he said to his mother, I am sorry. And we even heard his mother reply back, I'm sorry. So that was pretty intense inside the courtroom, to say the least. Everyone was wondering what this sentence would be. The prosecutor put forth an idea, the sentencing recommendation of 11 years and 3 months. The judge addressed that, saying that would be too much, that he is not supposed to impose a sentence that is more than necessary to serve the purpose of sentencing. So he said that was going to be too much. On the other side of that, defense counsel put forth a sentencing recommendation of only 14 months. The judge also addressed that, saying that also was not enough because defense counsel did not take into account any of the aggravating factors in this case. When the judge was imposing the sentence, he took one of the text messages as well as something else that Sean Diddy Combs said to Jane, and he read that aloud. This was from the trial transcript. It contains a lot of vulgar language, so to hear the judge recite that kind of language in court as he was imposing the sentence, it was pretty startling, and the language that was used, but he was just repeating exactly what Sean Combs said per the transcript that he said to Jane, and it said, Sean Combs said to Jane, does this feel like coercion? That word coercion is extremely important because the judge used that today, saying coercion does apply. Defense counsel had objected to the use of the word coercion, the idea that that would be used to enhance the sentence. The judge disagreed with that, saying he will be using coercion because that's what Sean Combs did with his victim. So very interesting developments here outside the courthouse here, federal court in Lower Manhattan, as we learned how many years Sean Combs will spend behind bars. So keep in mind, he was arrested last September, and so he has already served a year and about a month behind bars. So this sentence, 4 years and 2 months. So in total time, if we consider time served, he will only be looking at a sentence of about 3 years now behind bars. The total sentence, though, is 4 years and 2 months. But because of time served, we're looking at about 3 years.
Oh, Kelly, I have some questions. One of my questions is this. We know and we've seen and shown viewers parts of the video video that we know the defense team showed to the judge about Sean Diddy. And it was, I would call, more of a PR campaign about the good works that he'd done in the city and his relationship with people there. Compare, if you would, the statement he made and how he came off during that statement versus that video, in which, again, I would describe that more as a PR video than a personal, effective plea to a court.
Judge Ashley, this was quite the production. You usually do not see sentencing hearings like this that last all day and have that kind of video production and have a situation where you've heard 5 defense counsels speak on his behalf. You're taking a look at that video as we speak, and many people were talking about it, and the prosecution was juxtaposing that video with the video that we have seen at the Intercontinental Hotel of him, to use the judge's words, savagely beating Cassie Ventura. So the contrast is quite stark, to say the least. What the judge said is, I recognize that Sean Diddy Combs has done so much for communities, for the black community, that he is a family man, a man of faith, takes care of his mother. But the judge said no amount of good deeds like we have seen here in these videos can make up for when, for instance, that Intercontinental video was played. Sean Diddy Combs didn't know the tape was rolling, and that savage beating, which is the real Sean Combs. So those are kind of the words that the judge was expressing today as he was fashioning his sentence. And we heard that from both sides. Who is the real Sean Diddy Combs? We heard the one side, the prosecutors, calling him a pimp, where defense counsel was saying he's not a pimp because he wasn't paid. The judge said he was paid in his sexual gratification.
Fair enough. Now, we're looking at a live shot there of the courthouse. We're expecting press availability shortly. As soon as anything gets going out there outside the courthouse, there it is. We're going to take you there live. So we'll stand by and wait for that to happen. In the meantime, Doug Wigdor, he's Cassie Ventura's attorney, he has released the following statement. While nothing can undo the trauma caused by Sean Diddy Combs, the sentence imposed today recognizes the impact of the serious offenses he committed. We are confident that with the support of her family and friends, Ms. Ventura will continue healing, knowing that her bravery and fortitude have been an inspiration to so many. And Kelly, I just want to find out, what was the reaction of Diddy and his team when the judge handed down the sentence?
So, Michael, I was taking a look at his team. Shapiro, one of his defense counsels, as the judge was making his remarks, as he was discussing the reasoning behind his sentence, she had her hands crossed because it appeared that she was feeling that this is not going well. And then we heard the 50 months. So we heard it once, and then I think everyone wanted to make sure we heard it correctly. The judge then repeated it again because he mentioned the 50 months. And then he said a few minutes later, so now I'm going to impose my sentence. So it was an interesting way to propose what he was going to do. At that time, Shapiro no longer was crossing her hands. Sean Diddy Combs was just sitting there, sitting kind of back in his chair. No real reaction from him, but he was facing a lot longer because, of course, when you even take a look, and the judge mentioned that even if these were to run concurrent, the 2 charges of transportation to engage in prostitution, if you run those sentences concurrently, taking a look at the statutory minimums, the maximum is 20 years. So 10 counts run concurrently, so 10 years. He was saying the prosecution proposed more than that, so that was not right. But so when Sean Combs was hearing what the judge said, and then that came down as the 50 months, you could tell that there was no reaction, but I think it was better than what they had thought he was going to impose.
Yeah, I think it might be as well. I was personally a little surprised. I thought he would impose more. Michael, Kelly, I think the other piece of this is a lot of viewers have been commenting about how many people believe that he has gotten away with things as long as he has because of he's charismatic and his approach, and that he thinks he can just smile and make things go away and convince everybody he's this great guy. And I guess my question is, at any point during this sentencing hearing, did you observe anything that came off as he believed that he could walk in there and really charm his way into a good sentence?
You know what? His statement and allocution was powerful. It brought tears to many people's eyes. He talked about his drug addiction and how he is a different man when he is on drugs, which of course, you know, everyone knows that that does happen to people. So he wanted to emphasize that and saying now he's a changed man. He's not on the drugs. He has been behind bars. So his statement, from my perspective, seemed very authentic when he was apologizing. Now, I realize that a lot of the victims have written in and said that he will do this again, that he is not sorry for his crimes. So I can understand where they're coming from as well. But when he was delivering it, Judge Ashley, to your question, it did appear as if he was being sincere. Now, I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with that analysis, but from my standpoint, he was emotional, turning around, talking to his family, talking to his mother, and the emotions were running high in court. But of course, that does not take away from the damage that he has done to Cassie Ventura, Jane, and the other victims of domestic violence who he also addressed and apologized to as well.
You know what's interesting, Kelly, that the defense told the judge that really he couldn't consider the domestic abuse because that's not what he was convicted of. But correct me if I'm wrong, some of the things I'm seeing from what the judge said, he did in fact consider the effect on these victims and the hold he had over them. And from his statements to the court, is it fair to assume that the judge did in fact consider their statements as well as their voice in considering his sentence?
Michael, that's such a great question, and this will definitely be addressed on appeal. Defense counsel will most likely appeal this sentence, saying that it's excessive, saying that he considered acquitted conduct. So when you take a look at the briefs that were submitted on behalf of defense counsel as well as the prosecution, this was a big argument, whether they should be able to consider acquitted conduct or not. The judge said that he feels, based on the case law, that he can consider acquitted conduct. However, that being said, he said he is only sentencing him on the 2 counts that he was convicted of. That's 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. But he said he is not precluded from considering other conduct, relevant conduct, and the manner in which that conduct was done, and he specified threats, coercion, force. So he felt in fashioning his sentence that he was able to consider those kind of things. He talked about a jury convicts people, convicts a defendant on charges, not conduct. So he felt he could consider the conduct.
Interesting. All right, Kelly, I want to share with everyone the fact that the judge thanked the victims for coming forward. And here's what he said. You were speaking to the millions of women out there who have been victims but feel invisible and powerless and had to suffer in silence. The judge continued, you told those women and the world that violence behind closed doors doesn't have to stay hidden forever. The number of people who you reached is incalculable. All right, Kelly, tell us the last thoughts of the judge as he delivered the sentence. Was he, what was his demeanor as he was delivering a detailed sentence about the findings he was making?
Very stern, Judge Ashley, taking this very seriously, saying we do not tolerate the exploitation of women, violence toward women, and we need to send a message to deter this kind of conduct. And that is one of the factors that a judge has to take a look at when imposing the sentence, deterrence. And he made no bones about it that violence against women will not be tolerated.
All right, Kelly Krapf, you have been inside that courtroom. Thank you for being our eyes and ears and giving us such great descriptors to understand the picture of what happened all day long inside that courtroom to serve 4 years, 2 months. That's the judge's sentence.